Hey, it's good to be back.
All right.
It's really good to be back. And
Yeah.
I hope I can keep coming back.
All
We'll
right.
see week by week.
Okay. Well, yeah, week by week, no problem. Okay. Okay. With Andrea on the Zoom too, and Sylvia, Carrie, and Sandy here in person. And
So
Lisa
we
should be
start
coming
on the
soon.
first page?
Okay. Okay. So it's the first class of this new book. Okay. So, I know everyone has, some people have an itch. If you see someone doing something wrong, or you feel like there's something hurting themselves, or maybe like you feel like you can give them some advice or stuff like that. Um, do you speak up? Do you say something? And if you do, how is it taken?
I do,
You do?
especially if it's a child,
Uh-huh.
like the other day, and she wasn't a child, she was maybe like in
Hi,
the
Irene.
20s.
Hey,
On
so
the,
good to see everyone.
Yeah.
be careful.
Good to see you too, Eileen.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the question is, right, if you see someone doing something wrong or see you doing something like, feel like there's something you can have an easy fix or maybe not an easy fix, but you know what to do better, would you tell them, do you speak up, and how is it usually taken? Harry's making faces.
It
Yes.
is, it's not asked for. Sometimes it's refuted.
That's right.
Or
Okay.
they tell you mind your own business or something.
Yeah, sometimes you say, oh, if you only do it this way, or just put your hair back and don't get in your face, or like, right?
I mean,
Or,
I do sometimes within the scope of my business, and I try to ease up with it. But oftentimes unsolicited is not welcome.
sometimes people don't like unsolicited advice. What do you say? Anyone here on Zoom?
It depends on who's giving it to me.
Okay, that's you're saying coming to you, not like if you give it to someone else. But so yes, and Lee brought up a good point.
And
Depends who is giving it to her.
yeah.
Okay,
How-
yes.
Yeah,
And
I
how?
I think I would stay quiet because
Mm-hmm.
they know what they're doing
You think?
and it's their thing.
But sometimes
And
you really care about somebody and really want the best for them, and you feel like if
yeah.
you tell them in the right way, it might be, good. But the question is, how do you do it in the right way? Right? Come in.
Well, I've told people like if they have something stuck in their teeth or something like that, or
Oh, that's a simple one. Ah.
something like that. But
You know what?
Right.
You're talking.
Shelley, it's good to see you. Oh my
thank you, Eileen. It's
Oh
good
my
to see you
goodness.
too.
I've been davening for you. We all have.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I'm
It
interrupting the share,
works. It
but I
works.
saw your face and I'm just so glad to see it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ditto. It's good to see yours as well.
Okay,
Thank you
so
for davening
yeah,
for me.
yeah. We're all in davening for you, Shelley.
Yes.
And we talk about, yeah, we mentioned you when we don't see you at class. So yeah, we're happy to have you back.
Thank
And
you.
Yeah. So how do we tell someone if they're doing something wrong or off without offending them? How do we do it in a way that they'll
Sit here.
take it right, or they'll take it to heart?
Here.
Hello, Lisa.
We're
See
gonna
you.
move some
Okay.
more room.
So and then as a parent or a teacher, how do you tell a child something without feeling, you want your kids to grow up with good morals and ethics, but how do you do that without breaking them or thinking, oh no, they're not gonna want to talk to you if you're always telling them what to do. So what's the right balance? How do we do it? How do we say it? What is it all about? So this week's Parsha it's actually a double Parsha, it's Tazria Matzora, and this week's Parsha teaches us about doing it with sensitivity, how to tell somebody something that maybe they need to know or need to hear, but doing it with the right sensitivity. Oh, somebody else is here. Wow, I got a full crowd tonight. Okay. So so in this week's Parsha, you can you can put the bag down for now, just don't forget about it. It's you don't want lemons, it's extra lemons in that bag. Take home. The first class, it's going to be page 4. Okay, so this week's Parsha, Tazria Amatzara, it talks about the spiritual malady of Tzara'as. Tzara'as, people call it leprosy, but it's not really leprosy, but it is a skin disease that came from people doing certain, page 4, people doing certain, want to say sins, like speaking Lashon Hara, gossip, which we spoke about, I don't know, other class a few weeks ago. It comes from different sins, and the person that the punishment they get for that sin is getting their skin gets some type of, lesion, rash, whatever it is. Doesn't exist today. We don't get that today. Otherwise we probably would be speaking a lot nicer to each other. Anyway, so this whole parsha goes into very detail explaining how to detect the disease, how it's treated, what you have to do. Part of it is also a social lesson.
That's what Miriam got, right?
Yes, Miriam got for speaking Moshe Hara about Moshe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So how is it detected? How is it treated? What do you do? It teaches us a social lesson, which we'll discuss too. So, if someone saw a discerning color on their skin, they would go to the trained person who's the expert at Tzaras, or they go to the Kohen. And if the person,
Dermatologist.
not the dermatologist, maybe it could have been the dermatologist, but if they had the Tzaras, it also could be not just on their body, but it could be on their clothing or the walls of their house. I think it was kind of like a mold or something. I don't know.
Wow.
Anyway, they have to be quarantined, or the thing need to be quarantined or burned. They have been, and like we all know about that from our one lovely time with COVID. But they could have been quarantined any time from 7 to 21 days till they were able to complete the process, and then they'd be purified, and they'd have to bring a carbon, a sacrifice. Okay, so this is going to teach us sensitivity in speaking to others. When you have to tell them something that maybe they're not doing correctly. Okay, so let's go to text 1A. Okay, text 1A. Who wants to read first?
I can start.
Go ahead, Lynn.
If a person has a lesion called, what is it?
Se'et.
Se'et,
Sapachat.
tapachat, or baheret on the skin of their flesh, and it forms a lesion of tzarat on the skin of their flesh, they should be brought to Aaron the priest or one of his sons, the Kohanim.
Okay. So Aaron and his sons, or eventually the other Kohanim that came after them, they were the experts in Tzaras, although not all Kohanim were experts in Tzaras. Sometimes you had a non-Kohen that was an expert in Tzaras, but the only one that can declare somebody that tamei, that they had Tzaras, or someone that they were clear of Tzaras, was a Kohen. Okay, so even though maybe this Kohen didn't know so much, it wasn't an expert, he was only a Kohen can say, yes, you have Tzaras, or no, you don't. But an expert cannot tell the person, yes, you have Tzaras, or no, you don't. They can tell the Kohen, yes, that's Tzaras. And we're going to discuss that too. Text number 1B. So let's go, Carrie, you can read.
Everyone who is trained is fit to examine the blemish. However, authority over proclaiming one impure or pure rests with the priest. The experts instruct the priest to declare one impure, and the priest proclaims impure. Or the experts instruct the priest to declare one pure, and the priest proclaims pure.
Okay, so the Kohen was the one who actually had to say it. It could even be a blind Kohen that they couldn't see. It could even be a minor, like a child who was a Kohen.
But isn't it contagious?
No, that they're allowed to say that this person has Tzaras or not.
Oh.
No, it's not contagious because they only get it if you said the gossip. I mean, the Lashon Hara. Okay. Why keep hearing noises?
Think of quarantine
Turn
like
them off.
a
I
jail,
did.
kind of. They're on house arrest because of their behavior.
Okay, I'm gonna get into that too. Yes. Okay. So let's go. Text number 1C says, go on, Sylvia.
Even if the Kohen was blind or a minor, the expert would tell him what to say, and the Kohen would quarantine, release, or isolate the patient.
Okay. So why do we need the Kohen? Especially if this Kohen isn't an expert, why does he have to be the one to say something? Like if they're blind, they can't even see a Tzaras. If they're a child, how can you trust a child, right? And even if they are an adult and they can see and everything, but they just aren't very well versed in the laws of Taras, what does the Cohen's declaration contribute?
Because they are descendant of Aaron. Aaron is a like kind person, loving person. He loved every Jew, so that's what every Cohen has.
Okay, so we're gonna get to that, yeah.
Right.
But let's see, that's pretty good surmise, but let's get to that. How is that? Six, number two. Yeah, two. Lisa, you
Sure.
read it?
It is a divine decree that the authority to pronounce the purity or impurity of a lesion rests with the Cohen.
Okay, so the basic reason is it's a divine decree. What's it do? So that's what it is. But what could be the rationale for that? And yes, we're gonna touch on what Lana said. Okay, so Kohanes, one thing about Kohanim were always dealing with people. So they have a very good judgment of character. They feel people out really well. You know, some people who just like yeah, I think turn that up. They can tell what people are like. They grow up in a Kohen household, and their father's always dealing with people, and we're gonna read in a minute how and what. And so they get a feel of what people are like. So let's read 3a. Shelley, you want to read it? Are you okay to read?
Sure. By their mouth, every controversy and lesion will be judged. Priests who served on the court for generations developed an expertise in human attitudes and human nature. Thus, they could often identify and bring the guilty party to light by examining their ways and exploits.
Okay, so the Kohanim had a very good tap into human behavior because they would oversee the court cases, and they would be able to tell like the body language and all that of the person who was speaking, who was guilty, who was not. So by feeling so out, but no, so it's not just about the Taras, but it's about, is this person a guilty person? Is this person a gossiper? Is this person a person who says lashon hara? Is this person this? So they were able to feel the person out and ensure justice, but also not to ensure justice, but also to kind of guide the person back to the right path. So we know this person, it's not just about a lesion that they have on their skin. It's not just a physical ailment, but there's a spiritual ailment that's happening within them, and they knew how to gear the person back to the right place. So the person who had Saras, the Kohen felt that personality to, hey, I could tell this person's a gossiper, I could tell this person, doesn't talk nicely, and because of that and the lesion, they're able to like figure it all out and put it all together. There's actually 7 sins for getting this type of Taras. There's gossip, murder, an oath in vain, licentiousness. What does that mean?
Oh,
Like liar?
Licentious is someone who
Is a
is,
liar.
Liar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Liar.
Arrogance, theft, and stinginess.
What was it? What was it?
Stinginess.
Arrogance.
Oh,
theft.
arrogance.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So very interesting. Okay, so let us read 3B.
I can read through.
Yeah, you can do 3B.
3B. The afflicted were required to come to the priest so that the priest could determine which sin they were guilty of. The priest would then urge,
Yeah.
and guide them, or urge and guide them to repent.
Okay, so
Baal tshuva, they have to
so the
repent.
Kohen would realize what they were doing wrong. So it wasn't just about the actual Taras, but it was also about what was the underlying cause of the Taras, right? Like the doctor needs to know what's causing this ailment in you, and then they could heal you properly. So the same thing here. So the Kohen was kind of like, he had a leadership role. He was a mentor. He had a love for his fellow Jew, and this drove him to want to guide the misguided person.
Lana has
Would they know inherently what the sin was, or do they ascertain that from talking to the person that did it?
So they didn't ask the person, did you do this, did you do that? But just from speaking with the person in general, they're able to ascertain, yes. Okay, so the love of the Jewish people was ingrained in the Kohen from infancy. Okay, so they were hanging around this certain vibe in their home, a certain, and they were able to, because of this, they were able to feel out, and they would say, oh my gosh, I love this person so much, I don't want this person to suffer, and they would try to help that person back to the right path. So yes, it came out as a physical way, but it was really a spiritual ailment. So okay, if you want to read text 4, because that was exactly what Lana said.
Number 4.
I was like, let me just get up to it over here. Yeah.
I don't understand number 4. I was just reading about it.
In front of the period, yeah.
Be among the disciples of Aaron, the high priest, a lover of peace, and a pursuer of peace, and a lover of all people who drew them close to the Torah.
So Aaron, he was the perfect example of a peace lover, someone who brought people together. It was very known, Aaron, that he was a relationship fixer. He would go to two people who were in an argument and say, oh, this person, they're really not so excited at you anymore. They're just embarrassed to come and,
Good mediator.
apologize, right? And then he'd go to the other person, oh, that person, he really didn't mean what he did. And he, he really wants to be friends with, get back together with you again. And he did that with, for people, for a husband and wife. So he was always, and he did it from the love of it, because he really cared about the people, really loved them, not just because he was making money off of it. No, he wasn't making money off of it, just kidding. But he really, really was a person who really cared about them. And the right, and why, and the main sin, what we always talk about that brought Saras was the Lashon Hara and gossip.
Yeah.
So a Kohen who came from Aaron, who was totally the opposite of that, it was a good, antidote to try to fix this malady. So the sins that brought someone the taras was exactly the opposite of Abbas Yisrael, of love for a fellow Jew. So the Kohen, who was the lover of all the Jews, was a good guide to try to put the person back on track. Text 5. Okay, Eileen.
Yes. Okay, here we go. A person cannot become pure except through a Kohen, for the sin of gossip is what causes strife, discord, and division between siblings. Therefore, Aaron, who embodied the trait of peace, must come and heal this. He was a lover of peace and a pursuer of peace.
Okay, so Cohen's love and kindness also makes a difference when it comes to the sentencing, quote unquote, right? So the Matzorah, he had to be sentenced to quarantine, and he was quarantined while he couldn't know how to deal with people properly, speak with them nicely. Only, he either spoke gossip or Lashon Hara or lied or whatever it was. So he has to be separated from people and say, hey, I have to know how to be when I'm around people.
What do people do now? Go to the rabbi?
We don't have that anymore, we said.
Why
Doesn't
not?
exist anymore.
Well, yeah, but okay.
Because we're not so spiritual.
Okay,
We
I
don't have
understand
the-
that, but we don't have, right,
Right.
but we don't have
That's right.
the Sarah, but we still have
Problems.
things and
Oh,
and
yeah,
families
yeah,
and
sure.
and whatever.
Yeah,
You go to
people have to go to
the
rabbis, yeah.
To the rabbi.
Or to
No problems with
therapy.
Got a spot on you. We need to go.
That's right. No, doesn't work like that. Okay, you have to see that for yourself. Okay,
Oh,
so
I have a spot on me.
only somebody who's so sensitive and loving to another person is going to be very gentle with the punishment. They're not going to try to be harsh and strict,
Right.
right? So only a Kohen would want to give a verdict that is kind of more soft. Right, so you have someone who doesn't really care. An expert might be an expert. So, oh yeah, that's Ross. Okay, off you go to the slammer, right? No, but a Cohen would be, oh, okay, but he really maybe he didn't really mean it. Maybe this, maybe it's not Saras. So they were much more gentle, and they would tell the person they had Saras and what they had to do about it. They were much more gentle in the whole thing.
It's a third party deal.
bedside manner.
Yeah.
That's why the doctors aren't good at it, but the nurses are.
Yeah, exactly.
So 6A. Andrea, do you want to read? Let me just unmute you. Oh, Q&A.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we hear you. Yeah.
The priest from the tribe of Levi Kosh, Deuteronomy 21:5, because with kindness and equity is explained. Numbers 16:6. The priests oversee judgment because they mitigate judgment with goodwill. And the Torah determined that by the mouth all controversy and religion will be judged. Deuteronomy 25:21-5. The priests who dip their hands in the proverbial waters of kindness. and for that those judged guilty are not treated with severity.
And so because the priests had this kindness and love within them, and kindness and love for other Jews, they were very gentle and careful about how they would give judgment. So it's easy to throw a book at someone that you don't know, right? But walk into the court, someone, I mean, we don't do that today. A judge wouldn't be able to judge if someone he knows walks into his courtroom. But you have someone who you love or care about, the judge can be much more pained when he has to give the punishment, and he'll feel it, right? And even sometimes you have judges who don't. There was this famous judge, remember that guy? Oh, like Maine or somewhere.
Oh, Providence.
Providence, Rhode Island. Okay, yeah, so that's somewhere over there. He was always like they always videoed his court because he was like this really sweet, kind, nice judge. Always like,
Oh, that Italian guy.
yeah, the Italian guy, yes. Like, oh, you missed the light because your wife was in pain and you're on the way to the hospital. No, I understand, and then he would always be very gentle and nice with the sentences. I don't know how he got away with it, but whatever it is, people felt that he loved them, he cared about them, and he saw that people weren't just doing things because they were mean or bad, but they, had some circumstances going on in his life.
Remind me because my ex-husband got a speeding ticket on the day when I gave birth to my daughter, and he said I was taken to the hospital, and they said you're not in ambulance. Goodbye.
Really?
Yeah.
No, we had that with
Yeah.
my mom when she was rushing my brother to the hospital. He was having an asthma attack. And
Oh.
she said, look, give me the ticket. I don't care, but just can you give it to me at the hospital? And the police officer said, he didn't look that bad. And proceeded to write the ticket. She complained and the department had to do mandatory training.
Oh my God. that's terrible.
But it's
Like
like,
for more.
but on the other hand, with this judge, there's once where I think he told the bailiff or the person who helps him in court, like, well, I don't know. Did you see that, she ran the red light and then he's with his eyes closed, he's going, no, I didn't see that. Eyes are closed. I couldn't see it. But they kind of had that.
Yeah. So anyway, so a judge needs to be impartial, but he has to have mercy too. Okay? So the same with the person who has saras, we call that person a mitzora. If you have to, if you need to, you have to go, you have to go to the quarantine. But if you say it very strict, oh, you gotta go, it makes a big difference how it's done and what it's done. So you need a person who's giving the judgment needs to feel pained sending someone to quarantine, not like how it was in 2020, where it was just everyone, lock your doors and that's it, goodbye, right? But if you give the verdict with feeling their pain and the compassion, it will be felt. And then they'll be much more, they'll have more remorse and try to correct themselves, right? There was, the Baal Shem Tov, at a certain point in his life, it was probably maybe before he became famous, he was a shochat, a slaughterer, a ritual slaughterer. And he comes
Who
to
was this? Sorry.
the Baal Shem Tov. And he comes to this community that they don't really knew him before. And he worked with this, anyway, he worked with this community, he did the ritual slaughter, he left, and a new guy arrives. And the new guy arrives and he's sharpening his knife. And the way they do it was like a special stone, like a sharp, knife, a sharpening stone. And then they make sure that the knife is super, super, super sharp and smooth. There's no nicks or anything in it. And that's how they know they're going to kill the animal so smoothly that, it'll be quick, fast, and without the pain. And they had like a non-Jewish assistant helping, maybe helping hold the animal or whatever it was. And when this new guy comes and he's doing it, and this non-Jewish assistant is like, "Oh, you sharpen the knife with a stone?" And he says, "Yeah. What other way is there to do it?" And he said, "Yisrael, like the Baal Shem Tov, the shochat before, he used to sharpen it with his tears. Tears, like meaning it pains him to have to kill. Even though it's okay and it's a mitzvah and everything." But the tears themselves sharpened the knife. But to show that even someone who has to be the ritual slaughter can have compassion on the animal that he's killing. So the same idea. Even sometimes you have to do something. You have to give someone a consequence. Whatever it is, there's a way to do it, and there's a way to do it. the Kohanim are known to give the Kohen blessing, the blessing, on the holiday. Yeah, you were there this past. So it talks, and one of the blessing that you say is, bless Hashem's nation Israel with love. So let's read that. So it shows how the Kohen really does love the Jewish people. Carrie. Yeah.
The priest's mission is to bless God's nation Israel with love. A priest is a person of kindness who blesses Jews lovingly. It is precisely because he is a person of kindness that the Torah entrusts only him with the responsibility of sentencing a fellow Jew to your dwelling must be outside the camp.
Meaning isolation or quarantine. Yeah. Continue.
The verdict must indeed be based exclusively on the facts and the Torah law. This is why examination by an expert familiar with all the rules and types of lesions is critical. However, the actual sentence must be issued by a priest, a person of kindness. Only the priest feels the full weight of issuing such a severe sentence against a fellow Jew. He will, therefore, spare no effort and thoroughly examine the expert on the nuances of the law and remind the expert of the court's equal obligations to convict and to exonerate. If, after this thorough examination, the priest is convinced that he must declare the person impure, we can be sure that this is a true Torah verdict. We can also be absolutely sure that the priest will do everything possible to bring about this person's purification.
Okay. So the expert isn't careless. He examines, he knows thoroughly what it is and how to make, if that person she does have the tzarat or not. But for him, it's abstract, it's nameless. It's just, okay, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at a slide. Does this person have this or not, right? But, so like, someone who's studying medicine or someone who's studying art or something, studying law, they can read and know and train how to do everything, but they're not, but till they're actually in front of a patient, in front of, someone who comes to them for a law issue or whatever it is, do they actually have a practical sense of what it's really all about? So
I think they used to in hospitals and stuff when doctors would do their rounds or talk to the students, they used to just say the broken leg, and the person's sitting right there, and it's like the broken leg. So they're like, no, okay, you have to say Mr. This or Miss That. Like they're a person.
Human.
They're not the broken leg. They are Mrs. Smith. So they say Mrs. Smith has a broken leg, and
right. So I spent a lot of time in the hospital with my mother and stuff like that. So I could always tell when the person was like just starting their internship, when they were at the end of the internship, when they were actually a doctor.
Yeah.
You always could tell exactly from how they spoke and what they said.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I could see when they were just saying what they were told to say, and when they were saying
when they're so nervous.
Yeah, it's the first time they've given news.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So funny.
The expert looks at it. He doesn't really feel the pain if he makes a mistake or if something goes wrong. But the Kohen, by contrast, he has a care for that person, and that's weighing on him. He said, I feel if I say this person is, has a tzaras, then this. If I say that they don't, then that. What's going to work best for this person? What does this person need? Because yes, if they have the tzaras, they have to be quarantined. They have to isolate. But does this person really need that isolation or not? So the Kohen will always follow up and make sure that that person is released from quarantine. He won't forget about him and make sure he gets purified. He wants to try to get the person out of the situation as quickly as possible. So that's why we need the expert and the Kohen, or if the Kohen's both, then great. Because the expert knows everything he needs to know, that's right. And then the same thing, like you'll have the x-ray guy, the x-ray will read the x-ray and give the information to the doctor, and the doctor's going to make the call if this, this is broken, this is not broken, does he need the surgery, does not need the surgery, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so, wanted to stop with a little story here about the Chafetz Chaim was a great rabbi, lived last century, not so long ago, okay? And he was once, came to an inn, a Jewish inn, to sell his books. And at the end, he sees this group of this one, sorry, not group, but this one like really like rough, low class man who was actually Jewish, and he's just like eating and not being very like mannered or nice and demanding food and just gobbling food up and very impolite. And he didn't even make a blessing before he ate his food. And the Chafetz Chaim was like in shock, and he's like so like repulsed by it. And before he had a chance to say anything, the innkeeper came over and said, "Listen, I want you to know this man here, he's Jewish, but when he was 6 years old, he was stolen from his home by the Cantonist law. And in Russia, the Tsar made a law that Jewish children were taken away from home at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old to go to the army for 25 years. They'd be, some of them would be kidnapped or whatever, different ways of how they ended up there. And they were basically taken away from their Jewish environment. That was the point, that they should grow up like in a non-Jewish environment. And they lived with rough, they were taught by rough army men. They were just, their whole life. They never lived in a home in a kind, loving place, and definitely not in a Jewish environment. And this man, so he was one of these it was called the Cantonist. He was one of these Cantonists, and he was never had a chance to learn about his Judaism or anything. And not just that, look, at least, he still recognizes himself as a Jew. And Chafetz said, okay, I know what to do. I know how to talk to him. And Chafetz Chaim comes over to him, and he says, wow, is it really true that you're taken away at such a young age? That's so sad. That's so terrible. That's so horrible. You didn't have your parents, and your family, and you didn't have a community, and you didn't get to learn about your Judaism. You never got to learn Torah and everything. And I'm sure you were pressured to convert to Christianity so many times while you were in the army. And after all that, you never abandoned your religion. I really envy you that you have such strength to stand up to it, and you have such a great reward awaiting for you in the world to come. And when this man heard these words, he started to cry. He got all soft. And Chafetz Chaim said, you know what? You, in a way, are a holy man for going through all this. If you could commit just to your rest of your life, just to try to be, kosher Jew, like a Jew, live your life for good to me, you will be so, so, so happy. The man, I guess he eventually was able to learn and what it was like to be a God-fearing Jew, to be a good Jew, and change his life because of that. So because the Chafetz Chaim came and approached him in the right way, it really made an impact, as opposed to saying, oh, what are you doing? You didn't say a bracha, or, maybe you should do this, or he just said it in a very loving, caring way.
It also changed his opinion, because at first he was disgusted. No, at the Chafetz Chaim, when he first saw him, he was disgusted. Then when he heard the story, he was no longer disgusted.
Yes, true.
That's why it's so important to give Dan the Chafetz and also find out the whole story before you make judgments.
Oh, totally, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So this helps us shed light on how we have to treat others and how we view others, as we always just said. So do it with love. If we have to reprimand, you have to do it carefully, with love and with care, and guide. Think of how that you're guiding them. Like the Talmud says, text number 7a, it's an easy one, Sylvia.
One may see anyone's lesions except their own.
You can't, a Kohen can't examine their own lesions and say, oh, I do or don't have tzara'as. We don't see our own faults. We usually see flaws in others, and we many times overlook our own, right? So we could be critical of what others are doing wrong, but we aren't always so critical of what we are doing wrong. Sometimes we're doing this as what bothers us in somebody else. So they always say that if you see a flaw in the cup underneath the counter underneath the Shabbos hot water. But I thought I left another cup there.
There were two. I took one.
Oh, you also had one. Okay.
That's for cool.
No, she wants to see.
Right. So we always say, right? Like, don't, like, when you see in somebody else, it's usually something that
if you see something in someone else that bothers you,
it probably you have that
you
issue.
do.
Exactly. So go ahead and read it.
You recognize it.
Lisa.
Love covers all transgressions.
There we go. So we're blinded by our faults, right? If we're honest to ourselves, we know our shortcomings and how we see ourselves. So do we define others by their shortcomings? Do we define others, do we define ourselves by our own shortcomings? Usually we think, okay, yeah, I have that fault, but really I'm a good person overall. Or I know I was gonna say some people like do the opposite. Some people are always putting themselves down, but whatever. Anyway, 7C. Shelley, can you read that?
Absolutely. It doesn't mean we are oblivious to our faults. On the contrary, we know ourselves better than others know us. They can only see our surface faults. We know our hearts. Instead, this means that our faults don't drive us to self-improvement. We continue nonchalantly as if we didn't notice them. This is because we love ourselves so much that our love covers up our faults we know about. The faults drown and dissolve in our great love for ourselves.
Okay. So if we love others as much as we love ourselves, which is an obligation, right? It has to be a love your fellow as yourself. We would never see a fault in another person. We might notice it, but it wouldn't stand out, and it wouldn't bother us, and we wouldn't pass judgment on them. Because if we love them as much as we loved ourselves, it would maybe, it would just be a kind of like a side thing. It wouldn't really bug us.
Yeah, just give them a little grace.
Yeah.
Benefit of the doubt.
Next, number 8, Eileen.
Sure. Okay. The Baal Shem Tov taught that truly righteous people with no faults whatsoever see no fault in others. Looking at others is like looking in the mirror. If our faces are sullied, we see sullied faces in the mirror. If our faces are clean, we see a pristine image in the mirror. What we are is what we see.
Ooh, so we loved ourselves too much to notice our faults, and we should look at others in the same way. So love them so much that we don't see their flaws, right? Sometimes you have someone like people are married to each other for many, many, many years, and they just love each other, so they have, and they might have some, there might be some flaw or some issue, but they don't really see it, or they see it, but it's not, it doesn't really make a difference because, there's so much more to it than that. So how could a Kohen who is so righteous see the impurities in others? After all, he has to love them like himself. So how could he see something if he doesn't have any flaw? How could he see their flaw? Because they don't see the impurities in the other person, but they see the problem that needs fixing. They need to see, oh, this is impure, it needs to be purified. So they don't look at it as a fault. They just see, oh, here's a fellow Jew who needs some help. Let me see if I can help guide them. Text number 9.
You want me to read a long one?
Okay, Shelley, since you haven't been on in a long time.
Okay. When we hear that I have to make up for it, right? When we hear that a Jew did something inappropriate, God forbid, we must register only our responsibility to help them correct the problem, our obligation to mentor them pleasantly and appropriately, and help them repent. At least this should be the primary aspect that registers. If we hear something not good about another, and instead of thinking of our duties toward them, we notice primarily their faults and how bad they are, it is ironclad proof that our face is sullied. The faults that we see in others are reflections of our faults.
Oh, so when we see another person's fault, we say, hey, why is God showing to us? So if you start to feel shameful over it, it means that the flaw is really not them, but it's really something wrong in ourselves, as we said before. Mm-hmm. If we don't see the flaw as shameful, but just, oh, let me help them, they need some help, let me see if I can fix them, if I help them fix this issue, then we know that Hashem chose us to repair it, and we're not looking at it from a negative point, from a judgmental point of view. So the Kohen saw the lesions as what sin did this person commit, as in how can I help this person get better? How can I help this person improve in their life? So we talked in the beginning of the class. We mentioned what's the effective way of pointing out somebody else if they need improvement in some area or another without them taking offense. So we have to make sure that we do it with love, and as much as you love yourself, don't criticize them until it hurts what you have to say to them. If what you say to them is going to hurt you to say it, then it's because you really care about them and love them. So look at yourself and look, what is your motivation? Is it to criticize them, or is it just to help them get better, to help them improve, and you're not looking at it as a fault, but only so that you could, and I would say enhance or, make them a better, help them feel a better person. Do you feel their pain? And do you feel like you have a duty to help? So those are the things that you would want to look for before you go and tell somebody else something. And only speak if your motivations are really sincere. Don't just point out what the flaw is, but help them recover, help them with love, with empathy, with sincerity. Again, the heart mirrors the love. So if you speak from the heart, it will enter the heart. And let us.
Also, Suri, I think I learned from the past, and I'm sure you learned it also, that you really can't offer, unless you have a way of doing it with finesse, you can't really offer your advice or constructive criticism if they're not going to really listen to you.
Right, and also it depends.
You have to have a relationship where they really.
I was about to say, it depends what your connection is with that person. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. They really respect what you're saying, or they'll listen because they know you've got their best interests, at heart.
Exactly. Don't say if you really have to know them and really know if it's somebody who you're close enough with, or and also right, if they're ready to hear that or not.
Right. If they're not ready to hear it, then
right. And that's when you're
cause more trouble.
Is you have to ask those questions yourself before you say anything to them. And if you feel that none of those are, if something there is missing, you're not gonna, it's better not to say it. Just be nice and loving to them also. Like,
right.
If you go and show them your care, your respect, your love, that alone will, and they can learn from your example and stuff like that. Text number 10. Lana, want to do it?
When a person is afflicted with Torah, they shall be brought to the Kohen. When a Jew stumbles, God forbid, the tzaddik immediately senses the blemish that was caused. Just as the person feels pain if one of his or her limbs is injured, so too the tzaddik feels the blemish of another Jew. For the Jewish people are like his own limbs. This comes from his deep love, closeness, and true oneness with them. This is the meaning of when a person is afflicted with Torah, they shall be brought to the Kohen. The Kohenim are the tzaddikim who instantly sense the pain and have power to help repair it. And the same is true in genuine friendship. Real love means that we feel each other's struggles, and that awareness moves us to help one another correct and heal.
So this is the only way we can speak to somebody else's faults, right? Criticism isn't really going to go very far and just turn the person off. So how about children? How do we guide children, speak with children without, when I say, turning them off or alienating them? Let's read text number 11.
But children won't have that, Saran, right? If they say something.
No, what's the Ross? We're just talking about in general.
Yeah, but I'm saying, just a question.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
They're not bar about mitzvah.
Yeah, now we're just talking in general about
That's one.
speaking to people, telling them what they're doing right or wrong and stuff like that.
Children are not punished until they're 21.
21. Bar about mitzvah.
Well, not punishment, not they're obligated for mitzvahs at a certain age, but punishment like by basing and stuff like that, not until they're older.
Until they go and get drunk. At 21, say.
Yeah, this state is
They get upset.
Some states is 18,
Okay,
you know?
text
And
number.
besides, Jewish kids can drink at 13.
Flash free. Pick items in TikTok.
There is a marvelous pedagogical lesson in this. When we want to educate someone and point out something inappropriate in their behavior, our words must come from love. We must ensure that the person feels we are not out to punish them. Our sole motivation is to help them. Only a priest or someone who shares the traits of Aaron, the high priest, and his descendants can impart this feeling. What is
Okay, so
Assuming.
right with children, with
That's the fourth word.
you sometimes you could speak to them and ask out of curiosity. Oh, why are you doing this? And what's going on over here? And not from a accusing type of place, because then they're not going to listen to you. But it's more like a place out of curiosity, and then you can have a conversation with them and try
That's
to.
kind of like the Marvel inspired.
Yes.
Anyway, so
So what do
thank
you
you.
do when somebody